What is the Haps, sensational Sixers? Hope you're having a fabulous week and this last week of April, and that you're all safe and healthy. Let's get into continuing our exploration of Greece. Last time we looked at some of the geographic features. Now let's look at the impact that the geography had on shaping the economy of ancient Greece. So one of the things that you might have noticed last time is that we talked about how there wasn't a lot of rivers, and the soil was fairly rocky. And we mentioned how that made traditional farming really difficult. And that's a big problem. One of the themes that we've returned to again and again and again and again in studying ancient history is that big civilizations, great civilizations, have to be big and great problem solvers. They have to figure things out. We talked with the ancient river societies and the many innovations that they were able to develop in solving the problems of their geography. So when we look at Greece, they have to figure this out. All right, we don't have a lot of rivers that leave a ton of silt with really rich, fertile soil that we can use to grow a giant surplus of crops. And the areas of land that we have is pretty rocky, and it's hard to farm on, especially using, plows from the Bronze Age or just Iron Age. Not really going to work so well. So we have to find some ways that we can problem solve. And the Greeks are very good at making the most of the resources that they have. So, for example, one of the things that we looked at, we noticed that they had big grassy hills and low rocky mountains. Those aren't really great for growing plants, but they're awesome for raising livestock. And we're going to see that the Greeks become expert shepherds. The word shepherd comes from sheep herder. And they're going to be really good at raising goats and sheep. Now, we can see some influence of that in Greek cuisine. For example, the one of my favorites, the gyro sandwich, which has lamb meat and feta cheese. Feta cheese is goat cheese. Lamb is a baby sheep. Well, that comes from them raising a lot of sheep. Food is influenced by that. Okay. But a sheep itself, if you kill it and eat it, all right, you get a few meals out of it. But if you let most of them live, every year or a few times, you can give them a haircut. And with that haircut, a sheep's hair, wool, is very, very, very valuable. And you can use that wool to produce clothing and textiles. These animals that make wool, the goats and sheep that make wool, don't live in other areas of the Mediterranean. You're not going to see them, for example, in Egypt or many parts of the Middle East. But the environment in Greece is perfect for them. That means that the Greeks are going to become really great at producing textiles. Remember we mentioned that the Greeks have lots of harbors? Well, textiles are something that are very easy to carry in a boat and bring all over the Mediterranean world to trade. Another great thing about wool, it doesn't rot. So it's not something that you put it in a boat and you have a short timeline on it. I put that in my boat and then people don't buy it for a couple years. And eventually, if somebody buys it, I'm not going to lose any profit off of that. So the fact that it has a long lifespan, wool, and has multiple purposes and can be easily transported long distances on a boat, make their using and raising and domesticating the sheep and the goat really important. All right. Well, we talked about, once again, that rocky soil. Most traditional plants, like the wheat and barley and flax and other things that we see in Egypt and Mesopotamia and other places, the rice, that need all that water from the rivers, that's not going to grow great in Greece. But with that hot, dry climate, plants that grow on a vine that don't necessarily have deep roots, that don't need to be constantly watered and have rich, fertile soil around them, but get a lot of their moisture through the air by vining out and growing on a vine, they do fantastic. So if you're thinking of plants that grow on a vine, one of the most useful one is the grape. Yes, we can see the influence of that in Greek cuisine with stuffed grape leaves. Yum. But, let's see. If I have a vineyard and I grow tons and tons and tons and tons of grapes on vines like these farmers here are doing, and I take them and press them and then ferment them for some time, those grapes are going to become wine. Now, I put a bunch of grapes in the bottom of a boat, they're going to rot pretty quick. I take those barrels of wine and put them in the bottom of my boat. I can transport them all over the Mediterranean world. I don't have to worry about them rotting, and it's going to be a valuable commodity that I can trade. So through trade of things like wool and wine on the seas, the Greeks are able to still get the resources that they need to survive and thrive. One more you want? Okay. I love this one. See what I did? It's olives. Yeah. So, that lack of rivers and rocky soils, tough for traditional farming. But these short, stout trees love rocky areas, love the hot, dry weather. And these short, stout trees are called olive trees. And the fruit, yes, olives are a fruit that is produced on them. Olives is very valuable. Yes, we can see olives all over the place in Greek cuisine. Kalmeta olives and Greek-style olives are in many of their dishes. But if I take those olives and I press them, as you see with this ancient olive press, and press them really hard with tons of pressure, I can reduce them down into an oil. I put my olives in the bottom of a boat by themselves. Eventually they're going to rot. I'm not going to be able to trade them. I put oil. I take that oil and bring it on the bottom of my boat. I can put that in barrels and bring it all over the world, and it's not going to go bad. Even better, I can take those olives or other food and put it in the oil, and they'll be preserved. They'll last. So I can take food and make it last a lot longer by storing it in the oil. Wow. It's multi-purpose. How cool is that? So even though the Greeks don't have a lot of natural resources like the river societies, by being smart and using what they have, they're able to produce livestock like sheep, which then they can use to make wool and textiles. Plants that grow on vines like the grape, which they can then press to make into wine, and olives that they can press and make into oil that are going to make them very wealthy in trading and have enough resources that they can thrive and survive, which is pretty fabulous. They can go to places like Mesopotamia and Egypt that have an abundance of food and trade these things with them to get all the food they need. Groovy. So we're going to see, because they have to depend on sailing to get more food resources, the Greeks are going to become expert sailors and are going to rule the seas for a few hundred years in great navigating and great shipbuilding techniques. One of the earliest examples of great sailors from Greek culture come from the Mycenaeans. The Mycenaeans are the first Greek civilization. They lived on the area of the Peloponnesian Peninsula, if you remember, is the southern peninsula of Greece. And they're going to really push Greece through the Bronze Age and establish quite a large area that they control, and a little mini empire that they control, that is going to set forward many of the trade routes that the Greeks are going to be using to expand their trade and thrive and survive. Most likely, the story of the Trojan War and the Iliad and the Odyssey had its historical basis on the actions of the Mycenaean Empire and its war with the Trojans who lived in Asia Minor right over here. And it's going to be the eventual collapse of the Mycenaeans that's going to lead to the rise of power and Greek city-states. A lot of your article mentions that the Mycenaeans, so I figured I'd give them a quick shout-out. All right, so describe 2 effects that the geography had on shaping the use of resources in ancient Greece. Write your answers here. I would appreciate more detail than less. Thanks for watching. Have a fabulous Tuesday.